Couple of showers, high 64. Currently 57. Next news at 8. Breaking news as it happens. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
From the Matrix Home Solutions Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Listen to AM 560, The Answer, online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So the House passes the $2 trillion in funny money spend today. And then it gets signed into law by President Biden before his national address on the topic tomorrow, the topic being COVID generally. Yesterday on Cavuto, you had a preview of what's next. Jim Clyburn, he's the House Majority Whip. He's also a congressman from South Carolina who saved Joe Biden's presidential candidacy. They had a conversation about the corporate tax rate, and we know Joe Biden's not running the show. We know people like Jim Clyburn and the House Democrat Socialist leadership are. So here's what you can look forward to coming down the pike.
So I know that the corporate rate right now has been driven too low. The 21% is not what anybody ever advocated for. No one ever wanted the corporate rate to be that low.
How did it become
we
that
have
low?
made it impossible to do affordable housing the way it ought to be done because we've taken the tax incentives out of it.
Corporate taxes, the desire to see corporate taxes increase, capital gains taxes increased. That should be good for the recovery. And on a related note, Clyburn addressed this question of Biden's mental acuity this week after, Monday he couldn't remember his Secretary of Defense's name or the fact, or essentially the agency that he's the secretary of.
I just want to thank you both, and I want to thank the former general. I keep calling him general, but the guy who runs that outfit over there.
Oh, that's so bad.
Jim Clyburn said, "What you heard there? There's nothing to hear there. There's nothing to see there. We know he's a stutterer. That's just the evidence of stuttering."
It's much to do about nothing. I think you know as well as I do, and I've talked to the president about this, that he has what do we call stuttering? Has always been a problem with this president. He's been very open with that. It doesn't affect his brain at all, but it sometimes affects his speech. And so that's an issue that all of us know is there. And I don't know why we keep trying to make something out of it.
Well, the reason
disability.
Well,
right?
the reason we keep trying to make something out of it, Jim, is because you're lying, and unfortunately, Cavuto didn't push back and say, "I'm sorry." He was able to enunciate the words. That guy who runs that department over there. That's not he wasn't stuttering. He wasn't trying to pronounce Lloyd Austin's name. He wasn't trying to pronounce the Pentagon or the Department of Defense. He couldn't remember it. You would think you'd wouldn't stumble over your Secretary of Defense's name, that former general or general.
That guy,
that
him.
guy. It's like the documents and the things and the documents and stuff. I mean, we've seen this for a long time. And, perhaps in this era of transparency, I mean, at least that's what is promoted, perhaps the American people want to know who's actually running the show. We don't want to know it was Edith Wilson after the fact. We don't want to know it was Eleanor Roosevelt after the fact. For more on all this, we're pleased to be joined again by Steve Moore, noted economist, Wall Street Journal columnist, author of Trumponomics. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Hi, guys. Good morning.
Morning. So corporate rates, cap gains rates spikes before because, as Clyburn said, nobody ever wanted the corporate rate to be this low. Somehow it happened by accident, so we got to get it back to a place where we can extract the money we need for affordable housing.
Well, a couple things. First of all, I was in favor of a lower rate, and so was Donald Trump. In fact, the original proposal that Larry Kudlow and I put together for Trump called for a 15% rate. And, the idea is let's make America the place where all the factories and all the investors and all the companies want to come to, rather than a place where people want to leave. And we had seen over the years and in fact, the last several decades, that America was losing businesses and losing jobs to other countries that had very severely lowered their corporate rate, because it's the countries that had lower rates, had like a 10 percentage point head start over the United States. And what happened was, people need to know this, guys. When we cut our rate we were at 35%, which was absurd. We cut it all the way down to 21%. And when we did that, guess what happened? We just started sucking capital from the rest of the world, the United States. It's the reason we had the lowest unemployment rate, or one of the reasons we had the lowest unemployment rates in 50 years under Trump, because it worked like a charm. In fact, when I saw the president back this time last year, I said, Mr. President, this is even working better than we thought. It was like a magnet. Now, if we go to raising that rate back up to around 28%, by the way, Britain, did you see this? Britain is now going to raise their business tax rate as well, because, of course, they've been shut down even more than we have. That will do severe damage. And I got to tell you, the countries that will benefit the most from the United States raising our corporate tax rate are China. China's going to love it because why would we put our own companies at disadvantage? Don't we want to be the best place to invest in, not the worst?
Uh-huh. I wanted to get your take on.
Oh, by the way, can I say one other quick thing about this? Did you see? Because I worked with my friend Paul Gigot on this, the lead editorial in the Wall Street Journal today, about how this obscene $1.9 trillion spending bill has a provision in it which prohibits states from cutting their taxes for 4 years. It says in the bill, if any state that takes this money, and of course, how could they pass up, $350 billion? Any state that takes this money is prohibited from cutting taxes for 4 years. How outrageous is that?
How is that constitutional?
It can't be.
Exactly. I don't even know. Good question. How is that
State
constitutional?
rights.
Are the states now just sycophants of the federal government? And it was some, low-level left-wing punk, staffer who inserted this into this 1,100-page bill. I guarantee you no Democrat who voted for this bill had any idea that was even in the bill. And, right now I'm just so angry about what these leftists have done, because we don't need $1.9 trillion. We've already got $1 trillion in the pipeline. The economy is getting better big time. As I've been saying, this economy is going to take off in the second half of this year. But this massive government spending and massive government debt is going to have a negative. You got to pay your bills at some point. That's the first rule of economics.
First thing I do if I was Ron DeSantis, I get that whatever money is allocated to Florida on a per capita basis, and I'd introduce legislation to cut taxes. Find a tax that actually still exists in Florida and cut it just from principle. Oh, you want to tell me how to run Florida? Let's go.
Yeah, I'm totally with you, Dan, and exactly. I was just with Ron DeSantis this past weekend, and, I recommended him, and I said, when you get all this money, why don't you use it to cut taxes? And he was funny. He said, well, we don't have many taxes.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
They don't have an income tax in Florida, which is one reason. And by the way, when I was in Florida this weekend, I cannot tell you how many people from Illinois I met when I went to Orlando and I was in Palm Beach, and all I saw was, former refugees from Illinois. But this idea that Illinois can't cut its taxes. By the way, if there's any state that needs to cut its taxes, it's Illinois.
Yeah,
right.
Well, guess what? You're not going to be able to do it.
No, because they're not going to give any savings, pass that on to the citizens of Illinois. But
exactly.
Stephen Moore, I wanted you to know that I don't know if you know about this program, but every parent who has a kid in CPS is going to get a PEBT card. That's a pandemic EBT card, $450 a kid. So, and you can get up to $900 a month for the rest of the calendar year. Not the rest of the school year, but until the end of the month. Do you think they're trying to buy votes there?
Wait, I'm not sure I understand. You mean you get a card and it's like free money, or what is it?
It's to buy groceries.
It's
like a link card, but you have millionaires. I know millionaires who have private planes that live in the city and send their kids to CPS. They are getting those $900 a month too.
Where's the money coming from?
The federal government.
Well, it's coming
from the federal
it's
food program
good,
that
right.
they didn't,
it's coming.
from the federal
it's
food program that
right.
they didn't, it's extra money. So it's like they're throwing, we know that we held your kids hostage for a year. So here's some money to make you feel better, to make it all better.
Well,
and I think they're trying to buy votes or secure the Democratic votes that they have.
So, Amy, what's happening here? I mean, it is really insidious what's happening. We're creating this massive nanny state. We have this new study that we just released yesterday with the updated numbers that show that the average Illinois household, if you've got two unemployed parents, they can make $100,000 a year in unemployment benefits, food stamps, rental assistance, Obamacare subsidies, all this stuff. And we're creating this massive entitlement state and welfare state. And by the way, of course, the only purpose of this is to get more and more Americans hooked on government. We are like cocaine addicts on government now. It's really scary. I mean, come on. What creates the wealth in this country is not government. It's the private businesses, the private workers who produce things. Government can only give you, $500 if it takes $500 from someone else. It's like a kabuki game.
More legislation people need to know about, and that provision in the bill that's going to get passed today, the $2 trillion. That's an important one you mentioned. That should be challenged on constitutional grounds. So should the so-called PRO Act. And I want you to listen to what Congressman Tim Ryan from Ohio.
By the way, that's a different.
I know.
By the way, I just want to say that's a different bill.
I know.
But
yes,
they passed it yesterday.
Right, exactly. So I want you to listen to what Tim Ryan, the Democrat from Ohio, short-lived presidential candidate, had to say about it.
And our friends on the other side running around with their hair on fire. Heaven forbid we pass something that's going to help the damn workers in the United States of America. Heaven forbid we tilt the balance that has been going in the wrong direction for 50 years. We talk about pensions, you complain. We talk about the minimum wage increase, you complain. We talk about giving them the right to organize, you complain. But if we were passing a tax cut here, you'd be all getting in line to vote yes for it. Now stop talking about Dr. Seuss and start working with us on behalf of the American workers.
Well, first of all, this is really important, guys. So no one is saying you can't organize. I think we're all, I can't speak for you and Amy, but I think we're all in agreement that this is America. If you want to organize, there's nothing. I don't have any problem with that. If people want to collectively organize and collectively bargain, I have zero problem with that. You have a First Amendment right of assembly and to associate with other people. What we are talking about, what this bill does, is it basically requires in every single state in America, it requires people to join the union, even if they don't want to. And I find that to be completely offensive to the right of association. The right of association means you have the right to associate, but also the right not to associate. This will require something like 75 million American workers to pay union dues against their will.
Right.
How is that?
And also, the companies can't hire scabs if they decide to go on strike.
Here's the thing. I mean, again, I assume that Republican, if not interest groups, will be and public interest law firms that are freedom oriented will be on the ball here. But this directly runs counter to the Janus decision. This is unconstitutional.
Well, I don't know if it is, because if Congress passes a law that says you're required to have, basically what they're doing here is overturning something like 75 years of labor law. It goes back to the Wagner Act. I'm not a constitutional expert on this, but they're basically now saying, this is a fundamental American right, that you have the right not to join a union if you don't want to. Now, by the way, you don't have that right in Illinois. There are 22 states that actually require people to join a union whether they want to or not.
That's what this would do. This would nullify the right to work laws in 27 states.
That's exactly right. It basically says in 28 states, you now have to join a union whether you want to or not. So every state is going to be like Illinois and New York. And by the way, those states are catastrophe. So they don't want to allow states to cut taxes. They don't want to allow states to have right to work laws. What they're trying to do is nationalize everything.
Right.
And why are they doing that? Because the red states are kicking the butts of the blue states. So they want to make every state have all the same laws. And pretty soon, America is going to look like Illinois and New York. Gee, that's wonderful. Those are the states that are losing all the jobs.
Yeah, but it's if you cannot be forced to pay fair share fees per the Janus decision, how can you be forced to join a union? There's no way this stands up to constitutional scrutiny.
Great point.
Yeah.
Well, thank goodness. The one thing, the problem we have in America right now is there's no check and balances. These Democrats are basically drunk with power right now. I've never seen anything like it. It's unbelievable. It was only 2 months ago. Joe Biden gives a speech. We're all going to unite and we're going to work together. Right. And it's such BS. All they're doing is taking a steamroller as they have the power and just smushing us like we're ants.
Steve Moore, economist, Wall Street Journal columnist, Trumponomics author. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Okay. See you guys. Have a good week. Bye.
You too, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You've made the switch, and it feels so good. You've switched to Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
It's Mattress Firm's semi-annual sale, where you can save up to $300 on our top-rated brands like Sealy and Sleepy's. Plus, get a free adjustable base when you spend $6.99 on Sealy. Or buy Tempur-Pedic and get a $300